I'm Paula and I'm here with Laura. I'm going to be talking to her about her mule, who recently went to the U.S. Dressage Finals, the first mule to ever do so. So they're going to get started. So how did you get started in dressage?
I got started riding hunters and jumpers and dressage as a child down at the LA Equestrian Center in Foxfield Riding Academy down in Southern California.
How did you first become interested in riding and competing mules?
Well, I'd ridden horses my whole life, and I spent a summer packing mules up in Yosemite National Park, and that's where I first was introduced to mules, and they were fascinating. They were just so interesting to watch and to work with, and so I thought, this might be kind of interesting to try and teach dressage and teach to be ridden.
What made you decide to use a mule for dressage rather than the more conventional warm bloods?
Well, I think it was 2004 they allowed mules into the USDF, and I had some clients who had some mules, or who liked mules, and wanted to have some to go do dressage. So they said, start looking for some mules that you think might have the qualities, for dressage. And so it took a long time, and I ended up finding two mules, CR Moxie J and BB McGee. And in the meantime, I also had my own personal mule who I'd been training dressage, and that is Dyna. And waited for a while with her. She was tricky-minded. And then when I felt like she was ready, it was time to show her dressage as well.
What is your favorite thing about mules?
Oh, that's a tough question. There are so many wonderful things about mules. But the first thing that comes to mind is definitely their ears. That is sort of what sets them apart in a lot of ways from horses, because they really let you know how they're feeling through their ears. So the best thing is when you're riding a mule is you look down and you can see these giant radars, and your hope is for the relaxation. And when you get this right here where the mule's ears start flapping, then you know you're in a good place.
Could you tell me a little bit about your mules?
Well, let's see. Right now I'm currently riding 4 mules. One, he's pretty much retired. He only gets exercised for conditioning. And he was my first mule, Stretch, who I used for jumping. And then I have Dyna, who has just competed at the finals, but who also competes in hunters and reining and cutting and cow working. And then I have the 2 that I mentioned, CR Moxie J, who competed at first level, who we've been working with second level and third level movements for hopefully next year, and BB McGee, who is also at first level. And I guess that's all the mules that I'm riding right now.
How did you meet Dyna, and what made you decide to do dressage with her?
I found Dyna after I'd worked with Stretch in jumping. He was a 13-year-old pack mule when I started him. So he was a bit of a challenge, and I thought, I'd like to try to find something younger and really try to train to be a performance horse or mule. And so I started looking for good breeders and found the Heart B Ranch in Idaho and chose Dyna. I immediately knew. I was at a show in Winnemucca, Nevada, and saw her and immediately knew that she was the one that was supposed to be in my life. And as far as getting her to do dressage, dressage is my background, my basics, everything, whatever discipline I train for with all my horses and mules, dressage is the basis for it all. She was mentally, like I said, a tricky one. She was very reactionary, spooky, difficult to get shown, so I knew that it would take a while for her to mature before I would be comfortable showing her at USDF rated shows with horses. So I just kept working on all of the basics, trying to get good dressage basics in her, and when I felt like she was mentally ready, which was this year, then I went ahead and showed her.
Training any equine for dressage is difficult, but what are specific challenges you face in riding mules?
Well, mules are tricky in the sense that you just have to have a lot of patience. They're very smart, so you have to be clever in the sense of not overdoing something. Once they understand something, it's time to move on. You don't want to over-reiterate things. But also you have to have a really good sense of humor. because their dads are donkeys. So every once in a while they have days where they just decide that they just don't want to do something, and you need to be willing to not get frustrated, be able to laugh about it, and try to creatively find a way to work with what you want to do that day.
Is riding and training mules more difficult than riding and training horses?
I think in some aspects, yes, it is. I just think it takes the right kind of personality. You know, you have to be someone that's not going to try to force something. You have to, like I said, have a good sense of humor. So in that sense, I think they can be somewhat trickier, but at the same time, there are a lot of very tricky-minded horses as well. So I think just trying to get a good basis and good horsemanship helps with all equines.
What did qualifying for the U.S. Dressage Finals include?
What it included is that, do you mean like how did it come about?
Yeah.
Well, originally I had to qualify for the state finals, which was the CDS since I live in California. So I had to go for the state qualifying, which I believe was X amount of scores. I think it was like 5 scores over 65% or higher. And then for U.S. Dressage Finals, you first have to qualify for the regional finals, which was you had to have, as an open rider, I had to have 2 scores of 68% or higher at the highest test of the level. So I qualified for those scores and, excuse me, went to the regional championships, and then from the regional championships, of the horses or mules that declare a nomination for the U.S. Finals, they take the top 2 and a wild card. And by placing, I was actually originally on the long list, the alternate list, and which was exciting. And then I got the email that the other horses had chosen not to go, and so she had a spot on and an invitation to the finals.
What was your best experience in Kentucky for the finals?
Wow, there were so many incredible experiences. I think the thing that was most exciting for me was meeting all of the other competitors. You know, there was a real camaraderie, and sometimes I think dressage can be looked upon as an elitist sport or as a very solo sport, but it really is about the coaches and the grooms and the emotional support and the friends, and I think everyone that rides dressage recognizes how difficult it is and what a group effort it is to just even get those 5 minutes of showing accomplished. So I think there was a real sense of camaraderie amongst all of the competitors and their help, and I think that, you know, everyone in my barn aisle went and watched each other's classes, and there's a real sense of, you know, meeting people from all over the United States who share this same passion as we all do for dressage.
What are your future plans for Dyna?
Well, my future plans are I hope to be a better rider, and I hope to continue to learn from her. So we're just going to keep on our track of improving and hoping to go up the levels as far as we're able to go. You know, this trip really taught me how there is no impossible dream. This was the impossible dream for a mule to go to the finals. And the fact that it happened goes to show there are no limits. So I feel like I'm just trying to stay open-minded and not set boundaries and try to see as far as we can go.
Do you have any advice for young dressage riders?
I think the best advice, I would think, is just keep at it. You know, I hope that my story has helped inspire other riders to want to learn dressage, and those dressage riders that no matter what horse you have, what breed it is, what stage in life your horse is, to just recognize that there's something to be learned from every animal you ride, whether it's a mule, a horse, and to just stick with it, because there's lessons you're going to learn from riding that animal that will carry you on and teach you invaluable life lessons as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.